This is the E of real estate. I'm Rene Stevens, your host, and my guest today is Michael Tellinger from South Africa. Michael is a researcher, scientist, explorer, activist, humanitarian, public speaker, and author of 6 books. He has a bachelor degree in pharmacy at the University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg. And his nickname is the real life Indiana Jones for making groundbreaking discoveries about vanished technological advanced civilizations at the southern tip of the African continent. His findings force us to rethink our origin and rewrite our history books. He discovered more than 10 million, so that's 10 with 6 zeros, stone ruins that are not dwellings, but energy generating devices, as he probably will explain during our interview. They are scattered in an area of about 450,000 square kilometers. He has been delivering the proof of the tools and artifacts that support his scientific findings, that this civilization had a sharp knowledge of the laws of nature and the generation of free energy from Mother Earth for all their needs. They use the power of sound and frequency as a source of energy. Besides his research and exploration of the ruins, Michael founded and runs a Stone Circle Museum and a Stone Circle Lodge in Watervalboven in the province of Mpumalanga, South Africa. He organizes tours to special places off the beaten track, seminars and educational workshops. And last but certainly not least, Michael is the founder of the global Ubuntu liberation movement of higher consciousness with members in over 200 countries, creating a new social structure for humanity free from economic and financial enslavement. He developed the One Small Town Can Change the World strategy, a simple plan of action to unite people of small towns with its own supply of electricity and a cooperative effort to create abundance for all. Michael has toured the world sharing his research and the message of Ubuntu, and has done countless presentations in over 20 countries, 300 cities in the last 15 years. Well, Michael, that's quite an impressive achievement so far. So thank you for making time for this podcast out of your busy schedule. In my preparation for this interview, I came on your website on a page that you were a musician for many years. And the saying goes, once a musician, always a musician. Do you still have time to play music?
Hello, Rene. Good to know you. Nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me to have a chat. Yes, music was my life since the earliest of memories. I always believed I'd be a musician, although I did many things. You know, I'd got involved in pharmaceutics. I studied pharmacy and pharmaceutics at Wits University, and but during my spare time, I played music, and I always believed that the studying was just a hobby and the music was the real career. Yeah, and then at the age of about 28, I realized that as a white South African in those days, there was a cultural boycott against white South African musicians. We couldn't get signed or couldn't tour, couldn't play music around the world. It was very difficult. And although I was playing anti-apartheid music and I was an anti-establishment musician, that didn't help. Somehow Johnny Clay escaped that boycott. I'm not sure how and why, but then I decided at the age of 28 that it's pointless being a professional musician in a country where you don't have any future prospects. So I got involved in other industries like advertising and film and record industry rather than being a musician. Yeah. So as you said, once a musician, always a musician. But I must admit, these days I don't get much time to play, whether it's the guitar or the piano. It's difficult because there's just so much on the plate.
Yeah. We come to that. So music affects moods, as we all know. We have all experienced music that can touch you and make you like feel dancing or getting into a romantic or meditative state or even a melancholic state. Just as music affects our mood, buildings do too. And we come to that also later on in the interview. Even though we may not have yet the tools for fully measure how architecture affects the health, well-being and consciousness of the people inside the building, we know intuitively that it makes sense. I can imagine that the experience as a musician with sound frequency certainly was helpful in connecting the dots of your discoveries. So in this podcast, I want to explore some building blocks of your research and the findings about the effects of sound and frequency, and then connect them into practical application, if possible, in UBUNTU University campus and school. So try to make a mix from a different angle. We know that, or not, but certainly it was, that Albert Einstein pointed already in the direction that the material realm is all energy, sound frequency. By using his quote, "The field is the sole governing agency of the particle." And field you could exchange for energy, and particle you could exchange for matter. So you could say that the invisible is shaping the visible, in a way. And quantum physics define the energy field as invisible moving forces that influences the physical world. So the same definition, and then all invisible fields are measured by their effects, because yeah, still it's difficult to describe what energy really is, but effects we certainly can measure. So in that way, the same definition applies then also for spirituality and consciousness, because that has an effect and we can measure the effect. You call sound the source of all creation. That was one of the trigger points why we have this interview. Can creation then also be influenced or manipulated by sound? What's your take on this?
Oh, absolutely. So, you mentioned a few golden nuggets and trigger points and little green buttons for me to go down many rabbit holes here. Mm-hmm. But absolutely, if you look at all ancient civilizations, all the ancient knowledge, they all talk about the source of creation was all the sound of the creator, that it was the sound or the resonance of the creator that brought forth the universe and everything in it, including light. This is really important. Sometimes people miss this, and scientists often miss this, that you can't have light without resonance, without sound. Sound is the primordial source of creation. Even in the, and when I say sound, I mean resonance. We experience resonance and frequency as sound in this dimension, in this density that we find ourselves in on planet Earth. So we call it sound, but in essence, it's the source of resonance. Max Planck called it consciousness. What you spoke about Albert Einstein, but Max Planck, for me, played even a bigger role in this harnessing or making us realize that, according to him, consciousness is the fundamental source of everything, that you can't get behind consciousness. Even his quantum leap discovery of subatomic particles was based on the fact that it is driven by consciousness. Now, that was not necessarily shared by the academic establishment, because that would have brought spirituality too close to the mainstream science and quantum mechanics of the day, and they didn't want to mix the two. In fact, during that time, they were trying to separate spirituality and religion from the physical world, which is just an insane idea, because in creation, everything is connected. You can't separate things because you don't like the look of this and try and separate that, and that's what much of humanity spends a lot of the time doing, especially those who try to manipulate the way we think and program our minds with subtle programming skills that we know are very, very powerful. So yes, the sound, and so sound is the source of everything. From the Bible, it says the Spirit of God moved over the waters, and then God said, "Let there be light." Pay attention to that sequence of events. It is a crash course in quantum mechanics, and I wish all particle physicists and quantum mechanics experts would read that and actually try and interpret what that means. And they can watch some of my lectures on YouTube, and I explain it to them very, very quickly and very clearly if they're still missing the point.
Great. I heard you also telling about, or maybe we are going down a little bit more into depth, that how sound and magnetism are interconnected. Can you say something about that?
Yes, well, there seems to be a natural progression, a sequence of events. How sound creates magnetic fields. And you can see this in the natural shape of the manifestation of toroidal fields. When sound and resonance is created, it automatically manifests in the shape of a toroidal field, a wonderful torus. From toruses the size of galaxies and supercluster galaxies to subatomic particles, electrons, everything is a torus and a toroidal field. And those toroidal fields are actually tiny little magnetic fields, perfectly balanced magnetic toruses. And because when magnetic fields move, which we know they move because sound doesn't stand still, sound always moves. Resonance is a source. It comes from somewhere, that field of inexplicable consciousness or the creator of all things, whatever you want to call it, God, whatever you want to call it. That original source of resonance then creates these toroidal fields, which then turn into magnetic fields of sound and magnetism. And when magnetic fields move, they create electromagnetic fields. So in that one crash course of recognition of how consciousness creates resonance, and that creates sound and magnetic fields and light, you read that, Spirit of God moved over the waters and God said, let there be light. So in that little statement, we have a crash course in the physical manifestation of physical form out of the ether, if you want to call it that. So yes, sound, magnetism, and electromagnetism are inextricably connected.
Okay, so you could say that geometry is actually a visible form of sound vibration. And
absolutely,
therefore,
if you look at all the Platonic shapes, if you look at all the natural shape, or so-called sacred geometry is, some people, when they hear the word sacred geometry, they think, oh, it's some spiritual mumbo jumbo nonsense. No, this is the fundamental stuff, the fundamental building blocks of everything in creation, the seen and the unseen. Mm-hmm. So sacred geometry are the fractals, the natural fractals that form out of the toroidal fields and give us this incredible vision once it becomes visible to us in the physical spectrum and tactile in the spectrum that we can feel, because that's another very important combination. The fact that we can feel it and see it and hear it and experience it must be in a certain frequency and a certain dimension for us to experience. So all of those frequencies are part of the sacred geometric pattern of life. Mm-hmm.
So you could say that, speaking with the German writer Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, that therefore buildings are in a way frozen music, like what he said, architecture is frozen music. And then we are coming back to the main theme, frequency and sound.
Yes. And this is why, actually, Rene, why some buildings can make you sick. Yes. Some structures can make you sick, and some structures can help to heal you. Yes. Like you may have picked up from some of my research on my channels and on my videos, is that the ancient structures, the stone circles of South Africa or the stone circles of Southern Africa, these ancient structures have healing properties. Mm-hmm. We've experienced multiple healing. People have experienced over a 14-year period now, repetitive healing experiences in the stone circles. And there's a very simple and clear explanation for that. With mainstream science and physics, not mumbo jumbo nonsense, you can explain why and how those stone circles actually bring forth and elicit healing in our bodies. And some buildings do exactly the opposite.
That is a beautiful bridge to my next topic.
Good.
That our outer environment, so we have an inner environment in this container, and the outer environment consists for me about three things: physical, the mortar and the bricks; the digital world, of course you have digital workplace nowadays, and the social environment, so how we are interacting with each other, because also we are energy devices and radiating an etheric field and commingling with each other. So it was not only Albert Einstein and Max Planck, what you said, but also Nikola Tesla, that everything is energy and frequency. And it should therefore be possible to introduce a vibration that acts like a tuning fork, that centers the cacophony of frequency of the built environment, the electromagnetic smog of modern technology, and the etheric fields of humans, and balance them all into harmony again, just like a music symphony. Because all these frequencies are resonating and amplifying each other, they should therefore be researched and looked at in a holistic way, because it is all mixed. So as a former musician yourself, and with the discoveries you made about resonance, can you elaborate a little bit on this?
Yes, this is what you said there is critical to a deeper understanding and a comprehension of the interconnectedness of everything, and how our bodies with the trillions of cells in our bodies, the organs that are made up of all these trillions of cells, the differentiation of the cells from the stem cells into the eye cells and the stomach cells and the heart cells and the brain cells and the blood cells, and the hundreds of millions and then the trillions of cells in our bodies, how they all resonate at a specific frequency. So everything in existence, everything in creation has its own prime resonance frequency at which it exists, from smallest subatomic particles to cells, to molecules, to organs, to our bodies, to your brain, to your heart. Everything has a prime resonance frequency that make up the particles that make it up, the molecules that make it up, and then the organ, and then the organs together that make up the body. So, and all those frequencies, all those particles and the molecules and that are driven by their prime resonance frequencies have to resonate together, have to vibrate together in coherent, resonant, harmonic resonance. Otherwise, they're in dissonance, they're in dis-ease. Dis-ease means disease. So we get sick. So if we don't resonate naturally with the environment around us, that means our bodies are constantly under attack, and our cells, our organs, and our bodies are being destroyed and are constantly in a battle against the frequencies from around us, the electrosmog, the cell phone, the computer, the TV, the cell phone towers. All those frequencies are not good for us. They destroy our cells, they destroy our organs, destroy our brains, and they destroy our capacity to think and to operate, and they kill us. So, like you said, like a symphony, when an orchestra plays together in harmony, or a band plays together beautiful harmonious chords, you can feel the relief, and everything is beautiful and flows. The moment you add the discords, the dissonant notes, the chords that destroy things, you can feel it, and it's used in music. You know, composers that write the scores for the great musical, for the great movies that we've seen, they are masters of using sound and blending harmonies and resonant frequencies and discords to make you feel stress, anxiety, and fear, and so forth. And then it's also the tempo and the vibration together with the harmonics and the dissonance of the musical notes, as opposed to the resonance and the coherence and the harmony of the notes. So just like in a musical orchestra and a band that plays beautiful music, the world, our lives, our bodies, and the world around us should all be harmonious, should always resonate and be harmonious, coherent, harmonious resonance. The moment you have any kind of dissonant frequencies that destroy that harmony, you create dis-ease or disease. So, you know, whenever you feel, think about this. In our language, people use, oh, you know, I went to a party, I walked into the party, but I didn't stay long because there was a bad vibe. What does vibe mean? Vibe means vibration. So you pick up the bad vibrations. You feel it, your body feels it, and your cells and your mind and says, no, I don't like this vibe. I don't like the vibration in this room. So you leave. And otherwise, oh, there was such a great vibe because the vibrations were harmonious with your body, harmonious with your thoughts, harmonious with your cells and your organs, and you felt good. And this is what happens to people when they listen to beautiful music, and specifically music that resonates with their specific vibration. And this is why different people like different songs and different music, because it has a specific vibration that somehow connects to your physical makeup. This is a beautiful story. So everything in creation around us, everything we experience needs to be an integrated, infinite fractal of harmonic, coherent resonance. If it's anything else, it becomes destructive and it destroys us and the environment around us.
Yeah, that is the nail on his head, as we say. That when there is, just like in sound, you can cancel sound out. So when there is a disharmonic frequency in a building, that's my topic, can we bring in something to cancel it out, or to bring in a tuning fork to bring it back into a better frequency, a better resonance with the rest?
Yes. You know, there's actually in music, I remember when I was still playing in bands in the early 80s, and we would play a gig in a room. The first thing that we would do is we'd bring in the special equipment and the sound engineer that was a master in doing this, and it would put out a white noise with all these hundreds of millions of frequencies, this white noise, obviously audible frequencies. So it's not millions, but hundreds of thousands of frequencies of white noise. And that instrument would then pick up the dead spots and the acoustic spots and the live spots in the room, and then structure the graphic equalizer in a way to neutralize those dead spots and those live spots, so that we set the PA and the microphones so that it has the best frequencies for that specific room, and that some of the dead spots and the live spots don't either suck and kill some of the frequencies that come out of the band off the stage, or amplify them so much that they create feedback and actually make it unpleasant for people to hear. So it's something that I don't know if they still do it today, but we certainly did this in the early 80s. We would do it all the time. So that just shows you how even in a music event, you go and recognize the room, measure the sound frequencies in the room, and then structure your sound and your amp, your PA system, so that the people have the best possible audio experience in that room. And the same would be for houses. And so if you walk into a house or an office and there's acoustics slapping around from the ceiling, from the walls, those acoustic places are very disturbing. They're really bad for people. Like often you get that at big, town halls and stations and big public places with a lot of flat stone surfaces that bounce back all the sound. It can drive you crazy, man.
Exactly. So bring it to a higher level, even that when that is possible with audible sound that you are talking about, music played, then I think is also possible when you know the source code of materials and people.
Yes. Yes.
So I can imagine that you can create a more healing environment in a hospital, for instance, when you harmonize the frequencies, not only sound, but all the frequencies. And the same can go for university, that you create an atmosphere where people more resonate in being curious or concentrated or exchanging ideas.
Yes. So that principle is also used by the industrial military complex and the secret government agencies to create mind control frequencies that allow them to create mind control, literally absolute 100% mind control, to insert certain ideas and certain images into people's minds. Experiments like this have been done over and over again with mind control experiments and making people buy certain products before they buy another product. I mean, they've done these experiments, I think, in Germany and probably many other countries. So they're using sound frequencies and inaudible frequencies. Now, this is outside the hundreds to 20,000 hertz the audio frequency that we can hear. This is outside our audible spectrum, so we can't hear those frequencies, but they affect the way we think, they affect our cells, they affect our organs, our bodies, and our brain, and our neurons in our brain to make us reach certain decisions and conclusions that you normally wouldn't do. Yeah. So mind manipulation is an absolute tool that is used through manipulation of sound resonance and frequency. Obviously, those that work with the Tesla knew about it, and many other people are aware of this. But the other important thing that I want to bring back as well is that I just want to come back a little bit to if you look at our bodies. I often use the example of our bodies. A healthy state in your body should really be used as an example for a healthy state of our community. And you mentioned that I launched the Ubuntu Liberation Movement, and the whole principle of one small town can change the world is what we are now driving very strongly, to take small towns and convert them into places of abundance and prosperity, so that everybody benefits from everything we do collectively as people of that town. Isn't that what we should be doing? Like the cells and the organs in our body, all working together for the benefit of the whole body of cells and organs, right? The community of cells, which we call our body. So our bodies should always be very good examples how if we work together as individuals for the benefit of the community, our town, like the cells work for the benefit of our bodies, we will have prosperity and abundance. The moment there's disharmony in our town, the moment the people compete against each other, the moment people, they try and undermine each other and all that, the moment we do that in our communities, we have dissonance, we have disharmony, and we have a collapse of our economies. So that tells us that whatever socio-economic system we're using right now does not work because it breaks down the harmonious resonance and prosperity potential of cooperation and coherence when the people of communities work together.
Exactly. Again, a nice bridge for another angle. That and you mentioned already source of energy and healing. That is the sound frequency. So according to new science, we humans are not physical entities, but energy waves of interacting frequency that can affect the conditions of our body. And our waves get entangled and resonate with those of the physical, digital environment and the people in there. One could say that is a cocktail of environmental frequency mixed with vibrating human thoughts and emotions. Yeah, we mentioned already the analogy with an orchestra and a musical symphony, that it is important that all the instruments are tuned and balanced, playing at the right intensity and duration and all in sync. And so must be the environment, the outer environment, that is equally important, that all these components are in sync. And especially when we know the source code of the frequency, the studies that, I forgot the name, that somebody found out the frequency to cancel certain forms of cancer. Just cancel.
You're talking about Royal Raymond Rife?
Yes, yes.
Royal Raymond Rife, yes. Already in 1931, I mean, he was declared the man who found the cure for all disease. He was a celebrated guy. And then the Medical Association of America discovered, oh my God, this guy's going to destroy our profit margins. He's going to destroy our pharmaceutical industry because he's going to cure all disease. So they completely destroyed Royal Raymond Rife, you know. And there are others. There's not just Rife. There are many others that have found the cures for disease through resonance, sound, and frequency. And we can come back to this because this is obviously a huge discussion and a huge topic, because we can cure all disease. And when I say all disease, I mean all disease. Yeah. And I speak from experience here. We can make people that are quadriplegics, we can make them walk. We can regrow limbs. We can regrow any organ in your body, all with sound resonance and frequency and the combination of stem cells. We can cure all disease. If anybody still does this, get this into your brain right now.
Yeah, again, that is another way of saying that how important it is that the built environment, where we are 60, 70, maybe 80% of our time, we are in a building. And as you discovered and also proved that those buildings are, or those stones have a memory. So you can charge them just like your USB stick with a sound or a frequency to work as a tuning fork so that you get a reset when you are out of balance by mind control things or 5G or an angry neighbor. So are there already things that you discovered in the artifacts that it is pointing in a direction that we can re-engineer it and bring it in our built environment?
Yes, I believe everything can be re-engineered and brought into our own environment. It's like, you know, the tuning of musical instruments today is 440, where when you tune musical instruments to 432 hertz as the central frequency upon which all the others are built, then suddenly you start getting frequencies that are played by the instruments that are in tune with sacred geometry. And that is very important. For those that don't know, there's a great little documentary called Sonic Geometry. If you haven't seen that yet, I'd really highly recommend that you watch it. Sonic Geometry. It's on YouTube. It's my friend in Laguna Beach in California who made this remarkable discovery based on some of the things that I discussed with him. And then he went off and made this beautiful documentary of his discoveries, which shows you how the universe sings in the key of F sharp. It's quite bizarre, and how everything seems to be structured around the F sharp frequency. It's just bizarre. How all the sacred geometric patterns. So the universe sings in harmony, in coherent, resonant harmony. Mm-hmm. Where was I going with this? So the buildings, yeah, the buildings, what I found is, for people that don't know, excuse me, people don't know my work and they don't know the stone circle ruins of South Africa or Southern Africa. These are all circular stone structures. They're all connected to each other with these channels that are actually energy channels. They share the energy. Each stone circle generates energy. The walls are very unique. Every stone circle is completely unique. There are no two that look the same. And every stone circle is actually a representation of the sound frequency that comes out of the earth at that specific point. So it is the cymatic pattern or the cymatic shape. Your viewers will probably know what cymatics means. So cymatic is the study of sound and how sound manifests into physical form. So every stone circle is actually a representation of the cymatic pattern of the sound frequency coming out of the earth at that specific place. So the walls are placed on where the sound would create, like when you put sand on a metal plate, when you put the sound frequencies through it, you see these beautiful shapes. Well, this is just on a much larger scale using stones rather than sand. And so this tells us that we're dealing with very low frequencies and most likely frequencies that are close to the Schumann resonance and other frequencies that are harmonious and coherent with the Schumann resonance. So in essence, what you have with the stone circles of South Africa is they generate energy by amplifying the natural sound of the earth and by amplifying the natural frequencies of Mother Earth, the good frequencies. The moment you go in there, the trillions of cells in your body start to vibrate with those frequencies that are amplified by the walls in the stone circle ruins, whether you know it or not. So whether you know it or not, you're being healed. You're coming into coherence with the natural good frequencies of the earth. And this is why the longer you stay there, the more it'll resonate and vibrate in harmonious coherence, and the more you will heal. And this is why we've had repetitive and ongoing people's experiences of healing and being healed and cured of all kinds of disease. The most extreme curing or healing that we've experienced was a woman from Vermont, USA, that was cured of cancer. And this just blew my mind. I didn't know about it until about 2 years after it happened, when she came to me in Vermont and said, look, I've come back to tell you, thank you for saving my life. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, when we came on a tour of the stone circles of Southern Africa with you, what we call the sacred sites tours, I had full-blown cancer and I thought I was going to die. And then she went back to Vermont and she went back to the doctor, and the doctor said, "What have you been doing?" She said, "Well, I went on a tour of these ancient ruins in South Africa." And the doctor said, "Well, do more of it because your cancer is receding." So she came back next year. And then after a tour of the stone circles, again, Adam Scalada, Great Zimbabwe, which is very powerful. And we must also come back and talk about the negative ions, because all these frequencies also increase the concentration of negative ions, which are critical. Please, let's come back to this. So she went back to Vermont and her cancer was gone. So a year later, she came to meet me when I was doing a lecture there. And she said, "I want to thank you for saving my life." And so all these things happen around us. We're not always aware of them because they happen at frequencies that we're not open to feeling those frequencies. Mm-hmm. And yet, you know that there are people, very sensitive people, mm-hmm. empathic, and people that feel very subtle energies that can walk into these places and they feel the energy and they freak out. Mm-hmm. You know these people. And in mainstream sort of society, those people are often looked at as crazy and weird because we don't understand what the hell they're talking about, because you can't feel pain. If somebody is experiencing pain, you don't know what they're experiencing, so you think they must be crazy. But this is what they're feeling. They feel the energies, but they can't explain it to the others around them. So this is all very important to realize. And I truly believe that as we grow in consciousness, as our DNA is becoming reactivated, and that feedback mechanism, the higher the levels of consciousness we attain, the more it feedbacks and activates more parts of our DNA that makes us more conscious, more sensitive, gives us more abilities to manipulate, use our minds to control matter, to control the things around us. So I believe we're growing into fully evolved beings by reactivating our DNA ourselves through levels of consciousness that will make us one with God, that will make us immensely powerful beings that can manipulate and move things with our eyes and our thoughts, because after all, our eyes and our thoughts are powerful tools, and our eyes are like laser beam generating machines with cone-shaped tools and toroidal fields built into our eyes. But we can come back to that.
Indeed. Maybe now we are on the topic, the negative ions that we covered now.
Yes.
Can you say something?
Yeah, look, negative ions is a huge thing, especially now with the whole scare of COVID. This virus is going to kill everybody. Please pay attention. We live in an ocean of viruses. There are viruses and bacteria and mycelium and fungus everywhere. It is the stuff that makes up our world. If it wasn't for viruses, bacteria, and fungus, we could not exist. Mm-hmm. Our body, our guts, our mouths are filled with millions of bacteria and millions of viruses all the time. So we know what viruses are, we understand them. So there are very smart people that don't have great plans for humanity that are using viruses to do us harm. So clearly somebody manipulated this virus, and I'm not going to go into that, but we're dealing with viruses. So negative ions, this has been shown many times already. Negative ions, both negative and positive ions, but negative ions seem to be the focal point here. They destroy viruses instantly. Viruses cannot exist in a negative ion-rich environment. Now, in the nature around us, negative ions are being generated through the natural flow of nature, through the process of oxidization, through the way that plants work with carbon dioxide and oxygen, and the flow of monoatomic elements through the roots, through the bark, through the trees being released. This is a constant flow of elements, and also monoatomic elements, which many people are not aware of. And so the negative ions in nature are much higher than they are inside your home, for example. So inside your house, you are in a negative ion poor environment. And negative ions, like I said, kill viruses instantly. Viruses cannot be anywhere in where negative ions are high concentration. And we see this in nature. For example, the highest concentrations of negative ions in nature seem to be near waterfalls, and so natural forests and waterfalls, where that combines, that is generally the highest concentration of negative ions in nature. And you see, because of the natural process of the plants and the trees together with the water, creates this negative ion. So it's a very healthy environment. And that's why people are drawn to these kind of places because it makes them feel good. They don't know why it makes them feel good. Now you'll understand. Next time you go at a waterfall and there's a natural forest around you and you feel so good, you understand why you feel so good. It's not just the negative ions, but it's also the sound frequencies that are associated with that, the vibrational frequencies that make up those negative ions, the sound of the falling water, the water falling into the water. These are all frequencies that are generated around us. And so you are in a bath of good frequencies that then give you the negative ions that kill the pathogens around you and keep you healthy. It's just such a simple concept for anyone to grasp. So this mainstream medicine and mainstream physics that constantly tries to build building blocks, and the reductionist physics idea that we have to break things down and to see the parts that make it up, and then we'll understand it. That is an insane idea. You can't break down a liver to understand how it works if you don't understand what makes the liver, right? So the mainstream physics and what they call reductionist physics principles, where they believe that if you break down a watch, you'll understand how it works, that doesn't work in nature. And it doesn't work in the harmonious, fundamental interconnectedness of things that make up the laws of nature around us. So the negative ions are very important. Now, the stone circles, because of the sound frequencies that are generated, amplified, the good sound frequencies of the earth, that then create magnetic fields in the walls. And those moving magnetic fields create the electromagnetic fields. So you have the thing of God said, let there be light. That's what's going on here, right? And these electromagnetic fields and all the frequencies seem to concentrate and activate negative ions. So we measured in the stone circles very high frequencies of negative ions, probably at least twice to 5 times as high as negative ions outside of the stone circles. Then at Adam's Calendar, one of the major sites that I've been working with here and researching, Adam's Calendar, we measured negative ions that are even higher than in the stone circles. I think around 150,000 negative ions per, is it per cubic meter or per cubic centimeter? No, I forget. It's the per cubic centimeter or cubic meter. I should know that, and so I'm just a little thrown at the moment. And then, so that's many times higher than even at waterfalls and forests. And then the highest concentration, and I did this with my friend Sam Osmanagich from the Bosnian pyramid. And Sam is one of the smartest, wisest guys you'll ever meet. I highly recommend you have a conversation with him as well. He knows more about pyramids than any other living, breathing human being today. He has been to every pyramid you can imagine, to pyramids that you don't even know exist, to the Chinese pyramids. He's one of the few people probably alive that has been to the Chinese pyramids. So, and he's an incredibly scientific-minded guy. And he's been measuring the negative ion content in the Bosnian tunnels, the tunnels that lead up to the Bosnian pyramid. And there, the negative ion content is incredibly high as well. But it's even higher at Adam's Calendar. And when we got to Great Zimbabwe, around the conical tower, it's a giant cone-shaped tool, right? So I'm now giving some secrets away here. So the conical tower inside Great Zimbabwe, because Great Zimbabwe is a machine, just like all the stone circles, and all these ancient sites are ancient machines that generate sound, resonance, and frequency. Around that conical tower, he measured over 400,000, concentration of more than 400,000 negative ions, the highest concentration ever that he's ever measured anywhere on Earth. It is insane. So the amount of healing that happens there is unimaginable.
Coming back to energy signatures of portals and power spots that you are talking about now. As we know, humans also have vibratory energy signatures. So is it then in a way that you need to have the right level of consciousness to resonate with that high level, or is it working anyway? So suppose when you are not in sync, maybe it is not resonating or less resonating than it should be or could be.
Yeah, look, this frequency thing is really fascinating. I sometimes call it the cosmic apartheid. Really, it's a beautiful thing. I call it the cosmic apartheid. And in nature around us, you can't, in frequencies, it's literally frequency. You can't watch BBC One if you're tuned to BBC Two.
Yeah,
you can try as much as you can sit there and want to watch BBC One, but you're not going to see BBC One because you're tuned to BBC Two frequency. So if you translate that thought to levels of consciousness, so if you are this level of consciousness and this person is at that level of consciousness, you can try and explain things to each other, but it's just not going to match. So levels of consciousness is in a way some sort of a cosmic way of structuring natural, harmonious, resonant order. If you have people of the same consciousness talking to each other, there will always be understanding, there will always be comprehension and cooperation and complete harmony. The moment you have people of different consciousness, then there's conflict and war and violence. And this is what is happening in the world. The global elite are masters at creating divide and conquer principles, and divide and conquer principles based on people's religions, belief systems, economic status, origins, where you live, and so forth, and building fear and making us fearful of those people over there and all that. We're all just bloody ordinary people. All we want is a beautiful life, having a beautiful world, having a nice family, having beautiful friends, and living a beautiful life. And everybody wants the same thing. And the fact that we have war and conflict is not by the people. Wars are started by governments and prime ministers and presidents, not by the people. And this is just keep this in mind. We're being manipulated into situations and conflict through propaganda, through disinformation, through sharing frequencies that make us angry, where we don't connect with others, and where we most often it's a fear-based tactic where we start to fear somebody and somebody's going to do us harm. You can see it happening right now. This whole thing of China is now a threat to USA. They're building up the fear thing. They're using the media as a propaganda to create these conflict situations. When people are in the same level of consciousness, there is no possibility of conflict. It's when it slips out of consciousness. And that example that I gave you, if you want to, if you're watching one TV channel, you can't watch another TV channel on that same frequency. You have to get in alignment to watch that, to be in the same, on the same vibe, on the same vibrational level.
Yeah, I think you touch a very important point here that you mentioned already: mind control, marketing techniques, the fear-based porn that we are programmed with when we watch the mainstream media. But then it works also the other way around. So we can use the same tools, but sending the right frequencies or correcting frequency or tuning fork, as we were talking about. And there, the built environment, because we are, as I said, 70–80% of time we are inside, can play a huge role when we leave the TV out. Because then you get the wrong information in.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not dive too deep into this. So we talked about you have to have a certain level of consciousness to connect. And are you aware that already? Sorry.
I also want to, sorry, if I may just, Rene, just add, because your question was sort of, are we growing into that consciousness? I believe we are. So I believe we're all constantly evolving in our levels of consciousness. It's unavoidable. You can't stop it. And you'll find that people that live in nature, the very basic people, the people that live close to Mother Earth, close to growing food and close to nature, away from the cities, away from TV, away from those people are very basic, very down-to-earth people. And they have an innate internal knowledge that when you tell them something that is truthful, they immediately get it. They resonate with it. And you find this very quickly. That's why when you travel in small towns and in rural areas, and you come with a good heart and openness to the small towns and small villages, people have nothing, but they'll give you the shirt off their back. They'll give you the last bit of food. They'll let you sleep in their bed. They'll make you feel like a special guest in their house, and they have nothing. These are the poorest people that live close to Mother Earth that'll share everything with you. While the opposite is true in the cities, the big cities of the world. We don't trust anyone, be scared of everyone and so forth. So you see the dissonance and how we've been separated and divided. And I believe that our consciousness is evolving all the time. And keep in mind that the DNA is really the program. The DNA is a program. It's a code, molecular code, made up of a bunch of molecules, deoxyribonucleic acid molecules that make up the program code for what makes up our physical bodies. It's really that simple. And you can program code in any possible way you want if you know how to program that code. It's like a computer. It's a very advanced computer that can create. Remember that the DNA has the capacity to create stem cells. I mean, it's insane. And the stem cells then turn into any other cell in your body. So the power of the DNA is almost infinite. I would say infinite, but it's probably not. It's almost infinite. And so as we think good thoughts and positive thoughts and any thoughts, those thoughts go into every cell of your body. It goes into every atom of your body. It goes into every DNA molecular structure of your body, every DNA strand of your body, in the nucleus of every cell. And those thoughts activate and affect the DNA, those frequencies of your thoughts. So if you're thinking negative thoughts all the time, your DNA is programmed and starts to vibrate with negative stuff. And the cells are programmed like that. If you think of harmonious and positive and abundance and prosperity for everybody, your body then and your DNA starts to get programmed with that kind of thinking. So the more we think about a beautiful world, a future world of prosperity and abundance, peace, harmony for everyone, the more we become those beings. And this is why the global elite or the cabal, whatever you want to call them, they understand this, they know this. And this is why they use the television as the #1 propaganda tool to constantly fill us with fear. Fear of so many things, fear of death, fear of cancer, fear of disease, fear of your neighbor, fear of China, fear of this, fear of Germany, fear of Russia. God, we got to fear bloody everything, right? Because if they fill us with fear, then it suppresses the reactivation of our DNA, and we live in this constant state of fear. So our levels of consciousness do not elevate, which should be happening automatically. So the promotion of the frequency of fear is one of the primary tools to use frequency as a tool of manipulation and control of the human race.
Again, then we should counteract that with using the right frequency to at least stop dumbing us and take the pressure away. Okay, let me see what have we more. Several things we touched already on. Let's go to Ubuntu. Architect Buckminster Fuller has a nice quote that matches perfectly with your initiative. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. So that's exactly what you are doing. And then another one from Winston Churchill, who made the connection between architecture and human behavior in his famous quote, "We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us." As you were telling about the ruins, that when you go inside, something happens with you because of the structure there.
Yeah.
And you would expect that the universities are the most open-minded environments for change, because their core business is doing research to explain the unknown. Although I know better, I believe that the real scientists want to explore the unknown for the betterment of humanity, because otherwise, why would you do research? So my observation is that it's mainly politics and the funding restrictions that keeps them from following the real passion. And so how can the simple principles of Ubuntu bypass the system and create a new reality for humans, and then maybe first in general, and then focus how can they be applied in a university environment? Because when we change the youth, those who have the youth have the future. So when they are instructed with the right thing, I think that will help in the transformation we are all in at the moment.
Yeah. So look, there are a few things that you mentioned here that need separate, we need to address separately. First of all, the education system, the funding behind funding the education system and the research laboratories and so forth. So we'll come to that. And then there's how do we change that? How do we create an environment of education that actually creates bright minds for the future? And then how do we create a new social structure for the world that creates prosperity and abundance for everyone? So the answer to that is already one small town. So let me jump straight to that. For anyone that's watching this, because I can't go into too much detail here, we don't have enough time, but please go to onesmalltown.org or ubuntuplanet.org. It goes to the same website. Watch the videos, read all the material, and you realize how quickly and easily we can use small towns as the models to create abundance and prosperity by getting the people to cooperate, collaborate for the benefit of everyone, just like the trillions of cells in our bodies cooperate and work together for the benefit of the body of cells. If we do that in our towns, if we all work together and use what I call the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation, and that's very, very important. So we don't fight the system, we don't oppose the system, we don't try and undermine the system, because the system was created not to be undermined or to be destroyed. You will lose if you do that. So we use the current system, what we call, we use the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation, and we build a new model that makes the current system obsolete, just like Buckminster Fuller said many years ago. And this is what we do in the small towns. So that's our objective right now. And in those small towns, everything will start working very, very differently, because that's where you promote. Because then the community owns everything. The community owns all the businesses. The people own all the factories, all the businesses. It's a cooperative effort. And this is why it becomes such a powerful force that can resist all the largest international corporations, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's food producers, whether it's electricity or anything. These small towns of 10,000 people become an incredibly powerful united force. Once they unite and they start to grow and manufacture things as a unit, it is almost impossible to defeat them unless you go there and just kill everybody. That's the only way you can defeat that. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, it could, but I don't think it's going to happen, right? Where the authorities will send the army to kill everybody in that town because they are too successful. They're making too much money, so let's go kill them. That's ultimately what that could be an outcome, but hopefully not. I believe that's not going to be the outcome. So and in that community, because we now invite the best minds and scientists and healers and teachers and carpenters and electrical engineers and so forth, and musicians, all those people gravitate towards these kind of environments because human nature is to create. Our first human nature is to create, to be creative, to do something that makes us feel good, whether it's building a bed or building a bridge or baking a bread or growing seeds or writing a song or doing something. We all want to do something that makes us feel good, and that is generally to create something. The moment we start creating together, we also keep in mind we'll have scientists that the same scientists that are working on the nuclear programs and working on the secret military programs that have the knowledge that is used by the military and the secret government programs against the people of the world. So we have these same scientists now in our laboratories, in our research labs, that are working on the most advanced technology. I'm talking about toroidal field technology. I'm talking about cone-shaped Caesar beam technology. I'm talking about technology that most people haven't even heard of. So all this is going to be available in our small towns. So the towns will become incredibly powerful entities with science, technology, education, food growing, technology that enhances food growing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can imagine that the kind of education that we are going to promote in our town is going to be very different from the current educational structures that are in place. So now let's get to the current educational structures. Before I get there, if you're going to hire a bricklayer, who are you going to hire? You're going to hire a bricklayer that can build a house for you, somebody that comes with a piece of paper, says, I got a degree in bricklaying, or are you going to look at a bricklayer that has built that house and you can see what that bricklayer is doing, and you know that that guy knows how to build a house, this guy's got a piece of paper that says he's graduated. Who are you going to hire? You're going to hire the one with the experience, not with a piece of paper. right? So just giving you the hint as to what the current education system is all about. It's all about creating a future obedient labor force. It's got nothing to do with education and training. Education and training are two separate things. You don't have to be educated to be a good carpenter or a good baker. You know, because you've been taught by a master baker how to yourself be a master baker. You don't have to be educated to do that, but you can be the best baker in the world without a bloody education. So the entire current education system is fundamentally started by the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, and a bunch of banking families some 200 years ago already. It slowly but surely evolved, and it became the absolute tool of control and manipulating young minds, stealing 12 years of our lives, where they put us into these schools where they indoctrinate us, they teach us all the crap we don't need to know, but with the promise that when you come out, you have a piece of paper called a certificate, and with that, you can go find a job. Not that you're going to be good at something. The promise is that you're going to be able to have a job and have a good life because you can earn a lot of money. So the current education system is on the promise of a secure job in the future because of money. Can you see the trap? It's a full cycle of entrapment. It's got nothing to do with skills for life, where people actually know what they're doing, how to build a bridge. When you have an engineer, that you might have studied engineering at university, but when you come out, you still have to go and be an appy to do an internship with the guys that know how to build bridges. They're not just going to let you go and build a bridge. No way, that's never going to happen. Even doctors come out of medical school. I did the same in pharmaceutics. I came out of pharmaceutics. I had to go and work manufacturing pharmaceutical drugs to learn how to do it. You have a piece of paper, it doesn't mean you know how to do it. So the entire education system right now is a nonsensical theoretical program that does not work for society. What we need to do is change that completely. We don't have to fight it. Just let them carry on with what they're doing. And we create a whole new system where our bakers will be the best bakers in the world. Our engineers will be the best bridge builders and building builders. They'll build feng shui buildings because it's innately built into their minds. They don't have to learn about feng shui. They'll automatically learn it from the master builders and feng shui builders that they learn from. So everything in the One Small Town activation and participation is about bringing true skills for life to the children as they grow up in our community. It's not about sending them to school or university to get a degree. That's absolute nonsense. You can't get it. You can't plant seeds and know how to grow seeds with a degree. You can only grow seeds once you've learned how to make compost, and how to make compost and make soil nutritious. You learn by doing it yourself, not from a book. You might have to know some of the subtleties, the ingredients, the content of phosphorus and nitrate and oxygen and so forth and carbon, but that you still learn from hands-on experience. So our entire education system needs to be converted into a hands-on training experience with the theoretical knowledge encoded in it, but it has to be a hands-on experience so that when you finish learning what you're learning, you already are a master. At the age of 16, you could be a master bridge builder and not a kid at school that is wondering what the hell they're going to do with the rest of their life.
Exactly. And maybe something about funding, you said, the funding of that education system.
Oh, the funding, yes. So keep in mind, at the moment, our universities are funded by the large corporations, governments and large corporations. Governments are controlled by the large corporations. We all know that. But we often forget that the universities are also funded by the large corporations. Now, who are these large corporations? These are the large electrical corporations, the pharmaceutical corporations, the genetical manipulation, food growing corporations like Monsanto, etc. So we have all of the research labs in the world. The most advanced research labs are also funded by the banking families, and the banking families that own all the pharmaceutical companies and the big computer companies and the food growing companies and Monsanto and so forth. So their research labs are all focused on maximizing their profits and keeping their intellectual property. So if you discover a cure for cancer and you work for one of the big pharmaceutical companies, they're never going to release the formula for curing cancer, because then they destroy their business. Cancer is worth $1 trillion a year. The treatment of cancer, they never, I'm not going to say never, but they hardly ever cure anyone. 99.999% failure, but they keep promising to cure cancer. And so you can see, cancer has been cured many times by Royal Raymond Drive and others like him. Or to do a sound resonance and frequency tools. George Lakhovsky was another one that cured cancer with a multiple wave oscillator. And there have been many others. More recently, there's a guy called Anthony Holland that showed how sound frequencies in his lab kill cancer cells. So this is a known fact. This is nothing mumbo jumbo about this. So all these big corporations fund their research labs for their own corporate gains. And those research labs become the labs that then they write the textbooks. And they only put things into the textbooks that go to the schools and universities that they will allow to go out. They'll never put out the formula for killing cancer cells. They're not going to put that in the textbooks. So you can see how completely manipulated and skewed the education system is, because it's funded by the large corporations and their research laboratories that write the research papers. And those research papers are then put into the textbooks that go into our schools and universities. It's a complete chain of control to the entire education system that is controlled by the banking elite of the world. Ultimately, it always stops with the banking elite. If people don't know this, welcome to the terrible truth that we have to overcome. And we overcome that very simply by starting the One Small Town initiative. One small town can change the world, and one small town will change the world. It's just a matter of time. And the moment we launch that first small town, it could be in Holland, it could be in South Africa, in the USA, anywhere. The first time we launch that first small town that does this, where the mayor works together with the people of that small town. It could be a town of 10,000 people or 20,000 people or even 5,000 people. And the moment that happens, that'll be the first domino that falls. And it's going to be impossible to stop that, because the success of that small town is going to be so huge. And the success is going to be financial success. So the town is going to make incredible amounts of money through all the businesses that we set up as a community, that we own as a community, all the technology that we have as a community. So it becomes almost impossible to destroy that success. And that success will then create the domino effect to all the other towns around the world. It's going to be impossible to stop that.
Yeah, you watched several of your lectures. You were saying it starts all with free electricity, free in the sense that it is renewable, but also free at no cost or at little cost for the users.
Yes.
And that you provide that energy device for that community that wants to start. They get it for free, or they have to pay for that device? How would that?
Well, look, obviously the technology that we have is we have to make it, we have to build it, so it costs us money. Okay. So yes, we're going to sell it to the town, but once they bought it, then it's theirs. So once they've paid it off, okay, they've got their generator. So we provide it to the town, but once it's paid off, and then it's their electricity. And keep in mind, once a community owns their source of electricity and it doesn't cost them anything, everybody keeps paying for electricity every month. A town of 10,000 people and everybody pays $100 a month. That's $1 million a month. Imagine a small town that has $1 million a month to do something. That alone should make you realize how powerful that simple model is. So the electricity, the supply of your own electricity in a small town actually becomes the initial funding mechanism to start all the different businesses and projects, the growing of food, the pure water, the restructuring of the town, to building setting up all the different businesses and factories and everything that we need to make our town, whether it's technology, healthcare, anything. And every town will be different.
And it has to be on that scale. So for instance, when you pointed out that you have, for instance, a university campus with a lot of buildings, say 300,000 square meters building, that scale is not big enough to work off the grid.
No.
You really have to have
let's just
to work it together.
Yeah, no, it has to be a town, and that's why and keep in mind this philosophy has evolved since 2005 or 2004. It's not something that I came up with last week or last year. This is a philosophy that's grown and evolved and got stronger and stronger and stronger. So right now, I'm still discovering new things every day, and every day we add new components, new pieces to this very strong foundation of the one small town model. So it keeps getting stronger and stronger the longer it takes to put it together. So by the time we eventually succeed in finding the mayor that wants to do it, and by the way, we do have a town or two in Holland, by the way, that the mayors are interested. They're making noises to talk to me about it. And I mean, I've spoken to mayors in South Africa, in the USA, in Brazil, and in the UK, and Australia, and I've spoken to mayors in more than 20 countries. So it's happening. Mayors are interested, but they're also a bit nervous, So it's happening, and it's just getting stronger and stronger. And sooner or later, that one spark is going to just happen, and it's going to go. So it needs to be a certain size. Now, here's maybe this is a good place to finish our conversation on, because it's very high and powerful and an inspiring thought. The average, remember, we're taking our town, and I'm going to use 10,000 people because it's an easy number to work with. And we're turning our town into a cooperative, like a cooperation, a cooperative business. So all the businesses we start belong to all the people of that town, as long as they contribute their 3 hours a week, right? So if 10,000 people contribute 3 hours a week, you've got a town that's got 30,000 hours of labor every week, free labor, 30,000 hours of free labor a week. You have to have a lot of businesses and a lot of things going on to put those people to work. So just think about that. Now let's compare our town of 10,000 people to a corporation of 5,000 employees, an international corporation of 5,000 employees. The average turnover of a corporation with 5,000 employees is about $1 billion or more per annum. What we have done by uniting our town and making it a cooperative, we're now making the potential of income for our town comparable to, say, a corporation of 5,000 employees. So the potential of our town is to generate $1 billion or more per annum from all the businesses that we start. That's how powerful the one small town idea and model is. We become a fierce competitor to any international corporation, whether it's growing food or making computers or software or healthcare, anything. We can make and build and grow anything we choose to if it's suitable for our community, because we have all this united labor force. No international corporation could possibly compete against us, because our prices will be better, our products will be better because they'll be built better, they'll be built to last forever, they will never break, or we'll build them so that they don't break. We'll go back to the days of when things were built to last forever, as opposed to the way things work today. And that's the other thing that one small town will do. So can you imagine if you can buy a computer that comes from a one small town factory, and you can buy one computer for the rest of your life? Where are you going to buy a computer from? That means that we have now basically taken out of contention all the other laptop manufacturers around the world. Unless they do what we do, their businesses are going to die. So the one small town model is an incredibly powerful antidote for the decay of capitalism that capitalism has caused in the world today. And it'll turn it around. So everything will be better, stronger, faster, everlasting, curing all disease. Everything you can imagine will be in that one small town model.
One more question. What have been your biggest struggle or challenge bringing awareness about the Ubuntu movement, and how have you overcome them?
The biggest challenge, I guess, is funding. Funding remains a huge problem because, without money, it's very difficult to run an organization. So our funding is a huge problem. So anyone that watches this and they want to support the One Small Town model, then please go onto the One Small Town website and become a patron of the One Small Town implementation plan. Because without funding, we can't even run a proper office. So without office, it's difficult to coordinate people around the world. And we have to coordinate people in different countries, start to train them and share information with them. So this all takes time, money, and funding and expertise. So funding is definitely our number one obstacle. Secondly, and that also, funding also applies to the building and the manufacturing of our energy devices. So that's a very important thing. And then the next thing is people's levels of consciousness. People find this and they get very, very excited. And they read a little bit, or they watch a little bit of a video, they get very excited and they run out and they want to tell everybody. And then they get shot down and then they feel all depressed because they haven't done their homework, and it just shows you how desperately people want to get out of this current system, because the current system is just destroying all of us. It's not good for anyone. And so it's important that people first watch all the videos, read the Ubuntu book, read all the material on the website, make sure that you are fully informed about the One Small Town model and how to implement it before you go out there and start to talk about it, because I don't want people to lose their enthusiasm and to lose the spark and that energy, because it is a very powerful energy. And I can see how the way that it's growing, how many people around the world are just totally discovering it and realizing that it is the only solution that we have at the moment. I don't know of any other solution that anyone has put on the table that is so elegant, so easy, so inclusive of everyone, everywhere. It never excludes anyone. It never discriminates against anyone. It includes everybody in every community, even the people that don't want to participate in your One Small Town. Those that don't want to participate don't have to participate. They can carry on with their life as normal, but they will suddenly see all their friends that are participating. They'll suddenly see their friends getting electricity, food, technology, entertainment, all these things that they're getting as benefits for contributing 3 hours a week. And they've other people are not participating, and they'll very quickly realize that, oh my God, I can have all this if I just contribute 3 hours a week and actually become an active participant in making our community better. It's not going to take long for everybody to participate once they see the benefits coming from that cooperative labor force. So those are the things: funding, and then the rush to tell the world. So of course, share the website with everybody, tell everybody about the One Small Town strategy, but send them to the website, make them watch the videos. Don't try to explain it to them, because unless you know it incredibly well, you may just screw it up and confuse the people. Because often people say, oh, we're going to create communities without money, everything's going to be free. That's not how you sell the One Small Town model, because then people think crazy. What do you mean we're not going to have money? You're going to take all my money away? And people start thinking, you don't want people to get the wrong ideas. Ultimately, what will happen? The ultimate outcome in a One Small Town situation, when everything is available for us all the time, all the food we grow, all the technology, all the engineering, all the entertainment, because we're doing it for ourselves, that means we're not paying for it. So yes, ultimately everything will become free to the people of that community. But that is a realization that comes much later, when people realize, oh my God, I haven't paid for anything for so long. And yet every month I get money from all the businesses that are bringing in millions of dollars every month. And yet I don't have to pay for anything, because we're building it and growing the food for ourselves, right? So again, keep in mind, if you grow food in your garden, you're not going to charge yourself for that food, because it's your food. And this is the same philosophy. So if we grow food for our community, we don't charge ourselves for that food. When we export that food, that's where we get the money from. So we build computers, we distribute them to the members of our community, but we export them and make money from the people all over the world for our community. So yes, the ultimate outcome is that everything will be free, But that is not the objective. The objective is to create a community of prosperity and abundance. And that's when people realize, once everything is working and they realize that their bank account is just growing every month because they're putting more money in every month, but they don't have to use the money to buy anything, that's when people realize we don't need money. We need each other, because money does nothing. People do everything.
I think that is a great slogan to end this interview. I thank you very much, Michael, for your time and your insights and sharing this wonderful idea.